Welcome to Money Metaphors, exploring financial concepts through stories and analogies, with Jason Coddington from Coddington Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help families and small business owners like you navigate the world of finance. Our goal? To help you stress less and enjoy life more, all while leaving a lasting legacy. Join us for this journey where we explore the nuances of goal-based asset management, retirement, and estate planning strategies as Jason and his team draw from years of expertise and guest experts to solve the puzzle of effective financial management.
And welcome to the Money Metaphors podcast with your host, Jason Coddington of Coddington Wealth Advisors. Jason, it's your inaugural podcast. Welcome. Good to meet you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's be excited to have this conversation. So
since it is the first one, what we typically do here is we like to introduce you to people, give them an idea who you are, what you're about, what your background is. So let's start with kind of the basics here. How in the world did you make the decision to get into the financial advising industry?
Yeah, you look back now, we've been doing it 27 years, so it seems natural.
Wow.
But it was accidental, I think. So went to Fresno State and I majored in agricultural business. And I thought for sure I was going to be in produce. My family had been in the produce industry, so peaches, plums, nectarines, grapes. Went down that road and did some internships and basically decided, it wasn't for me. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't, I don't know. And then I did another internship with Farm Credit, the Farm Credit System. And we worked in the ag appraisal department. So appraising farmland. And I really took a liking to finance. Now, the crazy thing about that is I was not the best at math in high school. My peers were always, algebra 2, trigonometry, calculus. I was always the one further behind. Probably not what you want to hear from your financial advisor, but, I started to like finance all of a sudden. Then that transitioned into a job right out of college as a loan officer with the Farm Credit System, working with farmers. And then I realized, I've always been kind of an enterprising person. I was the seventh, junior high, I was mowing lawns to make a little extra money. In high school, I started washing cars. I'd leased some farmland from my family to farm, some grapes. So I was always kind of had that inner entrepreneurial kind of fervor, if you will. It just came to the point where, I like the Farm Credit System, but if I wanted to have the opportunity for my wife to choose to stay home, if we raise our children, because we just gotten married right after we got out of college, sure. It was going to be, let's take a shot at being self-employed. And I went to a conference. It was actually a financial planner was hosting it for other people. I just went in there as an attendee and saw what he did. And then that's how it started. And then I went down my own path and here we are. So yeah, it's been great.
What about it struck that nerve, that passion for you?
I think problem solving was big. I like to solve, problems, and providing a solution does that. But the other part that was intriguing to me was it was dynamic. So nothing was the same. No client was the same. They always had different situations. So it's, always learning something new. It's dynamic, but solving problems. And then I think the other piece that, was intriguing to me was providing a service. That's, it kind of scratched that entrepreneurial itch. Years ago, there's a phrase that, if you want to be in this industry, you have to have the mind of a capitalist and the heart of a social worker. And so I feel that's true.
It's interesting. How do you feel? Clearly, you come from an agricultural background. I was sitting here listening to you talk, and I thought, I wonder how that agricultural background informs the financial advisor, Jason, today.
You have to plan if you're in agriculture. So, financial planning, is important. You have to plan, in agriculture, you have to, when you're going to plant, if it's row crops, if you have fungicide applications, herbicide applications, or if you're organic, when are you gonna, introduce integrated pest management? And then, of course, you plan, and then you have to deal with risk, right? So, you have a product out there. It's unlike anything else, like a widget, if you will, that someone makes in a manufacturer. It's covered, right? It's built, it's covered. You don't really have the exposure to the elements or Mother Nature. And if there's no demand for that product or it drops off, you can store it. you don't have that luxury with fresh fruit or fresh produce. And so I think growing up in the agricultural industry and fresh produce helped prepare me for that, because you have to not only plan, but you deal with multiple variables all the time, and you have to plan for risk. And I think that experience growing up and then learning about it as well has helped provide a good foundation for providing financial advice to families and small business.
Some of the sharpest financial-minded people, not necessarily the sharpest finance-minded people I've known have been farmers, because of all of those things in the equation that you just mentioned there.
Yeah, there's a lot. And it's a noble endeavor, right? You're dealing with, taking a raw product each and every year, and you're taking it, to completion and giving it to an end consumer. That's pretty amazing.
So how did you get from the Farm Credit Bank to Coddington Wealth Advisors now?
So yeah, that transition was pretty good. So I interviewed with a few firms before I decided. Ultimately, I started with Ameriprise Financial. Now, when it started, it was American Express Financial Advisors, but then spun off to Ameriprise Financial Advisors. And the reason I chose them of all the others at the time was, it seemed to me they were really focused on financial planning. So they were diagnosed first and then prescribe. They weren't trying to, quote unquote, move a product or sell a position. Gotcha. So that really appealed to me. Spent 23 years with Ameriprise, and in 2019 we switched to LPL Financial as our broker dealer, and I was able to name my own firm, Coddington Wealth Advisors, and that is how we got here. Ameriprise is a great firm. Just I wanted the full freedom and flexibility that LPL could offer, and that's why we're here. So it was a good fit for me, and Ameriprise, still is a great place, but just different fit for me.
Yeah, no. Hey, people grow, things move on, and absolutely. And if you've got the entrepreneurial urge to have your own business, it makes total sense. Let's talk a little bit about what you do now at Coddington Wealth Advisors. I guess we could start with who's your ideal client, and then do you have a specialty that you work on when you work with clients?
So the majority of our clients are, families and small businesses, different business owners, whether it be, an auto repair shop, restaurant owners, but we also have a lot of farmers as clients as well. So I would say if I have a specialty, it would be working with people in the agricultural industry, either if they're self-employed themselves, or perhaps, they're a vendor. You could work with a fertilizer company. They could work with, a chemical company. They could work with, realtors that serve agriculture. So I would say, our niche would be working in the agricultural industry. But I think we find that as we mentioned earlier, the foundations found in agriculture and planning to be a farmer transcend into, working with individuals and families, because you still have to plan, you still have to prepare, you still have to deal with risk. So that would say that. And then occasionally, what we do is ideally, when we start working with retired clients, we see that as a transition, which it is a transition, but a lot of people's mindset change then from, not only are what they're going to enjoy in their retirement, but what's going to occupy their time, as far as, people still have, if they don't have a vocation, they have an avocation. They want to, and then people start to think about, okay, how do I want to be remembered? And so that's why, one of our taglines is, leave a legacy. And we're confident that, the legacy is more than money. It's memories, it's experiences with those you love and care about. And that we start having those discussions for those that are retired, because, that it's not just about the money. It can be, what do you want to leave any assets to your community, to your church, to charities that you enjoy, and then your family. And doing that in a way that, maximizes the amount to the beneficiaries, and a lot that way money doesn't get caught up and lost to the state or federal government and taxes. So that's something we do a lot. And with, land, they're not making more land. So land prices just continue to go up. So that
it would be fascinating to find a land factory.
Yes. Yeah. But until that's done, then land prices go up. Especially in California, it doesn't take a lot of assets to, have your estate, quote unquote, probated. So, there's some planning needs that are in there as well.
That's great. I would imagine too, that there's got to be a special satisfaction in a community where you have your business and you live and you work, working with small businesses, because I would imagine that you can see the impact of what you do sort of on an everyday basis.
Yeah, working with small business is fun because, we're a small business owner. So this is our firm here. So you pay rent, you pay payroll taxes, you deal with human resources, you deal with legal issues. All if you're in business, you deal with that stuff. And I enjoy it. It's fascinating. But it's also knowing that, you go to a restaurant down the street, they're going through the same thing. If it's, a realtor, for example, might be going through the same thing. There's a bakery, could be another farmer's going through it. So you just know. And so you kind of have that common language of small business that's, important. And I think one thing that happened, and then also too, I say working with accountants, as well, because, a lot of accountants also serve small business. And so that's, we like working with them and having those and just becoming creative about ways to solve problems for fellow small business owners in our community. And I think COVID, good and bad came out of that experience. But I will say in that 2020 to 21 time period, you did see a lot of business owners, have to get creative, especially restaurants in the service industry, get creative on how they were going to survive and deal with personnel issues. And, and it was you just had to adapt. And I just appreciate that. And, I think there was a good collaboration of community when that happened.
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of community, what's your role? I mean, what do you see as your role in the community? What do you do? How do you interact, and do you do things in the community? I assume you do. But
yeah. I think, my wife and I volunteer, and we're, at the board on our church. So, that's one way we serve our community. My wife is president actually of our local high school swim team. Our daughters swim and our son plays water polo, and he swims as well. And he's a junior. So we're active in that. So a lot of anything really that does with aquatics, it seems like we spend some time and devote to that. And then we love our local high school. So if there's an opportunity to volunteer for those types of activities, we like to help there. And occasionally we'll be asked by, maybe the Chamber of Commerce or some other, service groups to help out with some causes. And we obviously, help with that as well. And whether it's financial support or just, volunteer, rolling up your sleeves and getting it done. One thing that I think to me, it's an image I have. And if you were to go out to and I think this is images across every community in America, you just go to a little league baseball game, right? And you look at the center field fence. Yeah. And it's just, they have all these banners, all the ads, right? Right. But what's amazing is just how that's all small. Most of those are all small business owners, And so I see that as, an example. That's like I see the small business owner, not that teachers are less important or more, or other people in the community, city works or any of that. It's just, but I see the small business owners just as a fabric of what holds the community together. I see it that way because, it's just historically been that way. I mean, you have a unique perspective from which to see that too. Yeah.
Because you can see their physical as well as their fiscal impact on the community that you're in.
And plenty of people rally around causes. There's trucking company that donates trucks for parades and stuff. And so that's nice. And they're just all these small little acts that kind of go unseen or unnoticed, but it keeps the community going. And I think we see that a lot, and that's important. And I think that's across that happens not only here in our small town where I live in, but it also happens, I'm sure, globally. But I'll just say I know for sure it's intertwined in the United States.
Yeah. Why do you think that's important? A lot of people feel that way. Why do you think community, in a sense of community and involvement in it's important?
If you look at, let's say, national politics, if you will, right? There's whatever topic it might be. You're kind of removed from it. You don't have a lot of influence on that, but you can influence your own community. You can help make your community a better place by volunteering. It's an immediate response, or you can, maybe not immediate, but you can see results in your community by helping out faster than you can see it on a national level. So if you start with a community that you live in, if you can build communities, then you can expand out to counties, and then from counties, you can go to regions, and regions to states, and then states to. So I think that is important.
So it all starts locally, and locally is easy. Local is easy for you to be able to grasp and comprehend.
Yeah. And I think for me that the interesting part there is I had a good pedigree there with my family. My grandparents were very active in Lions Club. So years ago. And so when my sister and I were younger, we would go help out, and they would help do stuff at the local fair booth, and we would help set that up and be involved in that. And so little did we know, my grandmother was also, the American Legion, or the auxiliary as they called it. She was in Boy Scouts. So I saw that. And then my dad, of course, and mom were active in the community. It's just something we knew of. I feel I would like to see more of that because, our kids see it from my wife and I volunteering, but hopefully that plants a seed in them to do the same thing in their communities later on in life. But I think that we're losing that as a country. I mean, I'm going to get, too opinionated, but that I think we need to see more, community service.
And as it were, to borrow a phrase, what you're doing really is simply carrying on a family tradition. And it used to be that lots and lots of families had that tradition. So I can understand that sentiment very, very well. Let's talk a little bit about you professionally now. In terms of designations, folks might be curious, like just exactly what kind of licenses and certifications you might have.
So we have the registered representative license, a Series 7, as they call that, and then the appropriate state licenses for all of that to transact business. And I believe we're in just shy of 20 states that we operate in, but we can do more if that's necessary. And my designation is a CRPC, and I am which stands for a Certified Retirement Planning Counselor. So I have that designation, which basically focuses on, the allocation of resources for retirement and then during retirement, and then the transition of those assets onto the next generation. So that's kind of what encompasses that.
That's interesting. What is your business and investment philosophy like, especially now?
Yeah. No, I think so. That's great. I'll start with business philosophy, and I think the best way to explain it is I see it as the convergence of three existing businesses that all have something that they offer their customers, and they're big brands, and I'm sure you've heard of them. One is Ritz Carlton. So with Ritz Carlton, you get an experience there of hospitality and service. So we would like to say, we have the hospitality of Ritz Carlton, and so you're treated well, dignity and respect, and cared for, and your problems are solved and addressed in a quick manner. Then if we move the other one, I think we're the other influence that we have is a company called REI, or Recreational Equipment Company. So if you've ever been to REI and you want to buy something, a few years ago, my daughter was going to go backpacking with us. She needed help, and very helpful. They helped size it for her, gave her the pros and cons, you got to try it on. And so that experience of education and understanding and providing the pros and cons of that experience of buying just a backpack was very helpful. So how we translate that is we like to use, that with, we're not trying on backpacks in our office per se, but we're definitely, we're doing education with, on topics. So we want to make sure that you understand, what it is you're doing before you invest any money.
Right.
And so we like that from REI. And then the last would be In-N-Out Burger, which is probably less well known. It's well known in California, but less well known.
Certainly well known in California. Absolutely.
Yeah. So In-N-Out has a very simple menu. They have a cheeseburger, they have a double cheeseburger, and they have a hamburger. And then, of course, you can add fries and a drink. And that's the base model. Now, of course, there's this whole secondary, menu that if you're in the know, you can get, but they work off of that formula. And we believe that in finance, there's really three things, cash, stocks, bonds. Finance is a thing of threes: cash, stocks, bonds, short-term, long-term, intermediate term, tax-free, tax-exempt, or tax-free, taxable, and taxed at, capital gain, those kinds of things. We try to simplify some of these complex financial concepts so people can act on it. So if I was to say, what's our business philosophy, is that you're empowered to make financial decisions because you have the simplicity of understanding of In-N-Out with the education provided from REI, and you got to wrap it all in an experience with Ritz Carlton.
That wraps it up nicely. So what do you tell folks? What is, if I sit down in front of you as a potential client, I'm like, well, I'm all in here, but I'm not quite sure what to do with my money. And how do you advise clients in terms of investments, and what guides you in terms of your investment philosophy? Yeah,
we're kind of founded on two main, strategies when we meet with the client in a meeting. And so, there's something that we learned years ago from a mentor. It's really originally founded by an individual called Roy Geer. It's called the 5 Simple Steps. And that is to have a goal, have a plan, work the plan, and then throw off discouragement and provide direction. And so most people might have a goal, but they typically don't have a plan. And then if they do have a plan, they have to implement it and work it. And they don't always do that. But if they work it, There's that obviously, meaning they're going to invest or what it might be. There is going to be discouragement, and they're going to get and sometimes get confused. And so what we try and do is help people in those 5 simple steps. And in doing so, in a conversation, we're going to ask someone or a family, if they were sitting in front of us, what threats do you see to your financial situation? So this is the second kind of guiding point is, have a goal, have a plan, work to plan, throw off discouragement, provide direction. And then with that, we have to understand what threats or dangers they might have in their financial situation, what opportunities, do they feel are out there for them? And then what are they already doing right, their strengths? And if we can marriage that together, then we can develop a financial plan. And then from there, once we know their goals, then we jump into asset management. I think for us, what makes us unique is we manage assets based upon the time frame for their goals. So I think you asked about the whole farming background and why that.
Yeah.
And so I think this is where we manage risk, right? So for example, if someone has a short-term goal of saving for the down payment of a house, we would, not allocate those assets in an asset class such as stocks or equities, because they're going to go up and down, right? And so in 2 years, you want to put that down payment down. We can't have it that money be down 20% because the market's down. So in that particular case, is short-term goal, we put that in cash. We use goal-based asset management is what we call it. The middle is, that middle time frame is like 3 to 7 years. So, and that could be, maybe it's college education, maybe it's down payment for, a second residence, or you just maybe want to pay down some debt. There's some different, some different things that fall in that 3 to 7. Or if you're retired already and you have a vacation you're trying to plan in a few years with your grandchildren, that falls in there. And typically there we're aligning not cash assets like money market, stock, CDs, like we would in the 0 to 2 years, but we would then, start looking at bonds, something that has, a little bit better interest perhaps, but not as risky as stocks. And then for all those goals that move outside of the 8-year time frame, we start moving into equity assets such as stocks. And the reason for that is volatility, right? The longer you hold an equity asset, typically, historically speaking, the less risky it is, less likelihood for loss. And so that's why we feel that if we have a good understanding of your goals and the time frame for your goals, we can place it in the appropriate asset class. An individual by the name of Doug Lennox, who was a kind of an influence of mine at Ameriprise Financial, had this saying, and he says, we want to help clients have money in smart places rather than trying to find the smartest place. And so I think that sums that up.
Yeah. And the smartest place is very elusive in the world of finance.
Right.
It's a very changeable. It's a very changeable kind of thing.
Right. Well, and you're right. You can be, and it changes daily. You can be a winner yesterday and a loser today.
That's true. Well, okay, let's shift the gears a little bit here. When you're not working, what do you do for fun? What's your idea of a good time?
So it's been a little bit less frequent this year, but I like to golf. I enjoy golfing, and not very good, but it's always it's an amazing sport because it's very difficult, and for some reason I keep going out there and giving it a shot. So I like golf. We like to travel. I like to travel. That's fun for us. We're able to do that now with our family, our children, so that's good. So travel is important. Backpacking. So each summer, my friends, typically we do anywhere from a 3-day to, we've done up to as many as 9-day hike in the Sierra Nevadas. They're in our backyard. We've got 3 national parks within 2 hours of us. And so we like to explore back in that backcountry. And so backpacking is important. Wine tasting. So I enjoy that. So my wife and I enjoy doing that together. We're about 2 hours from a place called Paso Robles in California. And so, it's nice to go over there and just enjoy, wine and some good food there. And kind of something, this might fall into that something else not everybody knows, but I had the opportunity to farm some wine grapes my friend has in his backyard, just 3/4 of an acre. And we were able to make some wine. So that's something that we do for fun. So that's
I remember you were talking about this at the beginning of the conversation. You talked about at one point you had sort of played around with growing some grapes, some winemaking. I wondered if that amounted to anything.
Yeah. So it's been fun. I have, obviously had some help with that. The winemaker, I have another friend that has a winery. So that helps. So, when you have a friend that has a winery and you have a friend that has a vineyard and you were able to farm it, then it just kind of worked out. So it was a good new opportunity. And I've had fun with that. I think being in the vineyard, it's like, why in the world would you be out there when it's, hot and dirty and all of that? But, it's kind of therapeutic for me and, put the headphones on, listen to some good stuff and, just prune away or do whatever is needed. So it's been fun.
Coming off of winemaking, you said most people don't know that about you.
Yeah, most people do. Yeah.
What's something other? Is there another thing that most people don't know about you, or would that be
there's a couple
winemaker?
No. That's no. It's just I think the other thing that's I collect pencils. So I like writing instruments. So I enjoy pencils, whether it's mechanical or regular.
Wow.
And I like, just pins. I have no idea where I picked it up. My dad was a pin guy, collected quite a bit of pins. And so
like as in like flag pin kind of things? Or
no, writing instruments. So,
okay.
Yeah. So my dad had impeccable penmanship. I don't, but he did, and he just liked to write. And so I don't know, I was around pins all the time. And so I think I've just carried that on. So yes.
My penmanship isn't too bad, but my penmanship was enforced by a fourth grade teacher who was tyrannical.
Yeah. Well, it's a lost art because not all kids can do it now. I think, some form of cursive is nice.
It is nice. So if you had all the money in the world, Jason, what would you do with that money? Where would you go? What would you, how would you spend it? How would you use it?
That's a good question. Of course, I would travel, I'm sure, and enjoy the things that I already enjoy. But I think if I was going to, the way I'd kind of rephrase it or the question and then answer it would be more of the cause of the problems I would like to solve.
Yeah.
And, kind of the magic wand thing. I would love to change the college education system. I think it's really expensive for kids to go to school. I think kids are asked to, take out student loans and do that. And parents are asked to pay money for something that the kids don't know that they want to do. And they get out of school and they're saddled with, a chunk of the debt, and I do believe you should pay for school. So it's not that. I do believe school should be paid for. Then you have ownership and skin in the game. But something has to be changed there because it's too expensive for kids. It's not going to sustain. We're lucky enough to afford private education for our children. Mm-hmm. And if I look at my, I don't have any grandchildren yet, but when I do, if they were born next year to go to a private school, it would be $500,000 for the entire tuition for 4 years. And if they were going to public school, it'd be 200. I mean, of course, that's inflation numbers, but
yeah.
So that's not sustainable for our country. And I would love to have a magic wand and change that.
That actually sounds like a really great topic for a future podcast.
We'll definitely tackle that topic because we want to solve that problem for people or help solve it.
Yeah, no, well, understandably. So where do I go next here? Let's run with the idea of, you kind of flirted with this a little bit, but what is your idea of success?
For us, I think it's being able to be with the ones you love and care about, and as much as possible, do what you enjoy and you're passionate about. I think if you enjoy what you do, which I enjoy, I'm blessed to have that opportunity to have a career in which I truly enjoy it. I forget who said it, but it's like, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I truly feel that way. And so I would say that, see that as successful, not necessarily the money. Money's only as good. It's only a tool. So what good is it if you have it all and you don't have anybody to share with? So I think having experiences with those you love and care about and doing what you're passionate and you care about and what you love. I think that would be my idea of success.
Well, then that leads me really naturally to the question, what's your proudest achievement?
I would say for me, that I look at my family. I would say my children and my wife. I look at the experiences we have. I look at how our children have developed, and, again, they're children and none of us are perfect. The relationship we have together, along with my wife, I just say our family is my proudest achievement. And I don't know if it's an achievement or so to say, but I'm most proud of my family. So
there you go.
About the things in my life. Yeah. So,
and that's a good thing to be proud of.
Yeah.
Totally is. Yes. As we get ready to wrap things up here, a couple of last questions. One is, I know this sounds like an odd question, but is there a motto that you live by? Is there a mantra that you remind yourself or you say to yourself in order to keep yourself focused and to stay on track and to help you achieve your goal?
Not only just working with clients, but, just working on our, own personal goals. I think one that a mentor taught me years ago in the business was, Jason, you'll do well by doing good. So bottom line is, if you just do good for people, the rest kind of takes care of itself. And that's been true. I've always had the long view, be more relational than transactional. So that's one mantra. So do well by doing good for others.
Okay.
Another one is, I think, John Wooden had mentioned this, is that success is temporary and failure is not fatal. If you do have some achievements along the way, don't rest on those achievements, continue to grow. And if you have some setbacks, keep trying. So I think if you were to look at one word that's important to me is persistence, I would say that is what keeps me going.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, John Wooden was a legendary college basketball coach who I think he's still the winningest basketball coach to have ever coached in Division I.
Yeah, I think by championships for sure. Percentage you might be beat, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, successful enough. So
that's true.
And then I will also say, and probably should have said it first, is that faith in Christ. So as a Christian, that I find encouragement and direction there as well. That's important.
No, I think religious belief is it's foundational for a lot of people. I think the idea of believing in something and having faith in a God, however that's manifest, is pretty foundational for a lot of folks.
So that's a good compass.
And let's wrap it up with this idea of, well, we got a sense of who you are, what you do for fun, and everything else. Who should listen to this podcast?
Well, if you're interested in finance, and not just for itself on its own, but if you need help to make a decision, whatever it might be, because it's stressful, right? I mean, finance is stressful. It can be, it's the tax codes, millions of pages long. Most Americans, we learned during COVID, can't save 1 month's worth of living expenses.
Right.
College education is highly expensive. So there's a lot of noise out there, and a lot of people don't act and take care of their financial future because they just don't know how to start, or they're confused. And so by listening to this podcast, through some fun stories, through some good examples, we plan to empower people so that they can make good and confident financial decisions ultimately, so they can truly stress less, enjoy life more, and the byproduct of that will be to leave a legacy.
That's awesome. So let's wrap it up with this. If somebody is listening to this and is intrigued, how do they get a hold of you?
Probably the easiest is you can go to our website at www.coddingtonwealthadvisors.com, and you can learn a little bit more about us there. And in the top right-hand corner, there is a contact us button. There's a way to just, schedule a brief 15-minute phone conversation to discuss any topic you would like, free of charge, and we can see how we can help you out, and what the next steps might be. And then there's be some other resources on the website as well if you want to look at our newsletter and subscribe to that, where we have weekly tidbits and financial information that can help you as well.
So they can reach out to you with no obligation and find out if there's a nice fit there and whether they want to continue.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Jason, for your time and taking the time to introduce yourself to us. And to the listeners, thanks for listening. Obviously, you're not a subscriber to this podcast yet because it's the first one, but there is a subscribe button. So hit that button. That way you don't have to wonder if you're going to miss the next episode or where you find it, because you will be alerted and you will not miss an episode. If you're enjoying these episodes, if you like the podcast, we ask that you rate it and you share it with others so you can help spread the word about Jason and what they're doing over at Coddington Wealth Advisors. On behalf of Jason and everybody at Coddington Wealth Advisors, I'm Bill Tucker, urging you to go out and don't wait. Live your best life today. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Money Metaphors, exploring financial concepts through stories and analogies. Visit our website at www.coddingtonwealthadvisors.com or give us a call at 559-897-0040. Don't forget to click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Jason Coddington is a registered representative with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. The featured guests and their company are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Coddington Wealth Advisors. Individual tax or legal matters should be discussed with your tax or legal professional. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no assurance that the techniques and strategies discussed are suitable for all investors or will yield positive outcomes. The purchase of certain securities may be required to affect some of the strategies. Investing involves risks, including possible loss of principal.